Good evening. Welcome to TVB News. A fire engineering expert says the scaffolding mesh used in one foot court's maintenance led to a secondary combustion effect. This comes after the independent committee investigating the type of fire continues its public hearing. Mimosa Ngai reports.
The hearing resumes at Central City Gallery. Yun Guokit, a government-appointed fire engineering expert and the chair professor of architectural engineering at the City University of Hong Kong, is the first witness to testify. Yun says his team conducted a large-scale fire experiment at Sichuan University of Science and Engineering, involving the construction of a 3-story mock-up light well of 1 foot court to rule if scaffolding mesh can achieve a secondary combustion effect. He says the peak heat rate reached 29 megawatts after just 3 minutes of combustion, and he deduced that a 31-story building could hit 800 megawatts. Yun also notes the scaffolding mesh collected from Wan Chi House, the only unaffected block in the blaze, was not fire retardant, intensifying the spread of fire across the buildings. To Ti Wing, a divisional commander of the Fire Services Department who assists Yun with his work, told the committee the fire spread to 470 units after the first 2 hours. Asked if he agrees with the views of the committee's experts that the secondary combustion effect will be reduced if 1 foot court had erected scaffolding in phases, though says the situation would have been much better. Yuman Yern, the head of the Interdepartmental Investigation Task Force and FSD's Assistant Director of New Territory South, says there are 5 factors leading to the severe number of fatalities in this fire, including the swift fire acceleration, blocked exits, and shut down fire alarm systems. The hearing is adjourned until Thursday, 10 a.m. Mimosa Ngai, TVB News.
The government will begin accepting vehicle license applications this October in a move to regulate ride-hailing services. The Transport and Logistics Bureau submitted a written supplement to the Legislative Council's submission on the relevant bylaws. It says the Transport Department plans to accept ride-hailing license applications in October and will announce the results and notify selected applicants in November. Applicants must first obtain a ride-hailing driver's license before the Transport Department will issue a ride-hailing vehicle license. The Bureau says vehicle owners should purchase third-party liability insurance to ensure seamless protection for drivers using various platforms. With just 1 year remaining until the end of the current administration, the Secretary for Justice Paul Lam said he aims to complete the necessary work on any outdated statutory laws. The Justice Secretary also noted laws related to national security have been further refined compared to 5 years ago, adding that the recent subsidiary legislation was a necessary step. Regarding the rise of AI, Lam stressed his department is cooperating with other governmental bodies in their research to reduce risks pertaining to the technology. Timothy Lee has more.
Over the course of this administration, Hong Kong performed its constitutional duty of completing Article 23 legislation. Stepping into his 4th year as the city's Secretary for Justice, Paul Lam presided over the momentous occasion that saw Article 23 come into effect. But the SJ stressed he's not a so-called helmsman of national security. He said the legal system has been further refined compared to 5 years ago, with authorities aiming to create a safer environment, allowing the community to focus on development in the city. He added that the recent subsidiary legislation of the NSL is also just a part of the Department of Justice's duty.
We are under constitutional duty to refine our legal system concerning safeguarding national security continuously. But that only means that if we see a genuine need to amend our national security law or to make new law in order to address new concerns or some risk that appear, then we have to discharge our duty.
Meanwhile, as the use of AI becomes more widespread across the city, the SJ said there must be regulation on the fledgling technology, but it must be balanced with the facilitation of its development.
In relation to deepfake, which is a very specific problem, I think the matter is being considered by the Security Bureau. But the Department of Justice is working very closely with not just the Security Bureau, but all other relevant bureaus to whether there's any room for improvement or any room for legislative intervention to ensure that the use of AI will not lead to misuse or lead to any harmful consequences. Returning to the issue of deepfake, I think the idea is very simple. It's a misuse of AI for the purpose of conducting deceptive behavior. Now, I do agree that we ought to have effective legal means to stop this sort of improper use of AI.
The Secretary for Justice stressed while he remains uncertain about his future in national security-related legislation work after his first term in office, he noted that he will continue to do his utmost in ensuring national security in the city and urged residents to similarly take up the responsibility. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Premier Li Qiang states at the opening of the 17th annual meeting of the new champions in northeastern Dalian City that the Chinese economy has provided the much-needed certainty and served as an important safe harbor in an increasingly uncertain world. He promises to grant greater market access to foreign investment and pledges China will continue to participate in global governance on artificial intelligence and other domains in a responsible and constructive manner. The AMNC, also known as the Summer Davos, is an annual conference put on in China by the World Economic Forum. This year, the event is underway in Dalian, Liaoning Province from June the 23rd to 25th, under the theme of Innovating at Scale, drawing more than 1,700 attendees from nearly 100 countries and regions, including premiers of South Korea, Bangladesh and Kazakhstan. Li Qiang, China's premier, delivers a special address at the opening plenary on Wednesday to defend the strong resilience and positive momentum of the Chinese economy, which he says has demonstrated stability, innovation and vitality. Refuting the so-called China Shock 2.0, the Western narrative that frames its development as a shock to the global economy, Li says China's industrial advances present opportunities to the world, and he pledges continuous breakthroughs in key areas during the 15th five-year plan period. The premier stresses the country's emergence in frontier sectors has been achieved through hard work and comprehensive innovation-driven empowerment. He signals the competitiveness of Chinese products is not down to government subsidies, as some people claim, because the government is not that wealthy yet. Instead, Li points to the large domestic market, which allows the mass and fast deployment of new technologies and huge corporate investments. Li name-checks tech firm Huawei and robotics company Unitree, both of which have faced US restrictions, as examples of China's innovation success. While AI has significantly boosted innovation efficiency, there are growing fears of technological runaway and ethical lapses. Li warns if governments are too slow to rein in, the consequences could be severe. China has proposed to establish a global cooperation framework on AI and work with related parties to enhance regulatory effectiveness and forcefully diffuse potential risks, he says. Welcome back. The head of the UN's nuclear agency signals Iranian nuclear enrichment sites will be visited by his inspectors, a key component in the interim deal between the US and Iran to reach an end to the Middle East war. Meanwhile, the US and Iran confirmed separately that the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most important energy shipping routes, is fully open to commercial vessels. Daniel Rao tells us more.
The head of the UN's nuclear agency signaled Iranian nuclear enrichment sites would be visited by his inspectors, a key component in the interim deal between the US and Iran to reach an end to the Middle East war. International Atomic Energy Agency head Rafael Mariano Grossi said the accord explicitly detailed the nuclear activities that are going to be carried out with regards to the nuclear material facilities that will be supervised by the IAEA in all letters. Grossi said in order to do so, the IAEA will have to inspect, adding whether this happens in the day after tomorrow or in 1 week or in 10 days, it's important, but not essential. Meanwhile, the US and Iran confirmed separately that the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most important energy shipping routes, is fully open to commercial vessels. During a speech in battleground Pennsylvania, US President Donald Trump told the crowd oil is flowing again in the strait, and Iran has agreed it will never have a nuclear weapon.
We just achieved a historic peace agreement with Iran to end the conflict in the Strait of Hormuz. And by the way, yesterday, 19 million barrels of oil flowed out of the Strait of Hormuz, a very beautiful place. That's the most oil in the history of the Strait. No, it's never been you've never seen anything like that. It's called an oil gusher, and most importantly, we are ensuring one thing very importantly, because this is why I did it. I did it for this reason, 99% for this. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, and they've agreed to that. But remember, this wasn't easy. We had 47 years worth of presidents and other people, other countries too. We're not the only one that never did anything. They were the bully of the Middle East. And now we're leaving Iran with no Navy, no Air Force, no anti-aircraft, no missile capability, no nuclear program. We're leaving them without any nuclear capacity.
Daniel, TV News.
The US Senate passes a war powers resolution on Iran, restricting President Donald Trump from launching further military operations without congressional approval. The passage marks the first time such a measure clears both chambers of Congress since the conflict began in February. It signals growing opposition to Trump's handling of the war as it draws closer to an end. Gloria Fung has more.
The Democratic leader.
The Iran War Powers Resolution passed in Senate, with 4 Republicans joining most Senate Democrats in support of the measure. This marks the Senate's 10th attempt to advance the War Powers Resolution. The resolution directs U.S. President Donald Trump to remove armed forces from hostilities within or against Iran, unless a declaration of war or authorization to use military force for such purpose has been enacted. It reaffirms the constitutional authority of Congress to declare war and initiate military hostilities. Despite American media largely portraying the resolution as merely symbolic, Democrats argue a war powers resolution remains necessary even as the United States reaches a deal to end the conflict.
Senate Republicans need to grill Trump for answers on where negotiations stand. Senate Republicans' calls to pump billions, hundreds of billions of dollars more into Trump's fiasco will make matters worse.
The resolution comes as the Pentagon is seeking $80 billion from Congress, mostly for the Iran war as it backfills munitions and stockpiles. Gloria Fung, TVB News.
A United Nations Independent Commission of Inquiry finds Israeli authorities and security forces have deliberately targeted Palestinian children, resulting in what the UN calls a genocide. Annie Zolden reports.
In a latest report released by a UN Independent Commission of Inquiry on Tuesday revealed, Israeli authorities and security forces have killed more than 70,000 Palestinians, with nearly 30% being children. The report details that children continue to be targeted even following a ceasefire. The UN Independent International Commission of Inquiry on the occupied Palestinian territory says evidence shows Israel deliberately targeted critical infrastructure that served children, including neonatal and maternity care centers, orphanages, and educational facilities in Gaza and the West Bank. Large-yield bombs were used to cause maximum casualties.
Children are being killed mainly in 2 ways. One, through airstrikes using high-yield explosives with wide area effects, and second, using quadcopters, drones, and sniper rifles that specifically target and kill children to their head and upper body.
Blockade and siege imposed by Israel have led to starvation. These directly impacted the survival of newborns and Palestinians' reproductive future. Palestinian children have been stripped of any sense of safety and future. The destruction of their health, education, and development is irreversible. It erases their childhood and will impact them over a lifetime. The report also finds Israel's security forces have arrested Palestinian children and imposed sexual violence and other severe forms of mistreatment against children as part of the collective shaming and oppression. Having identified military units within Israel's security forces responsible, the Independent Commission issued recommendations to Israel to ensure accountability for such crimes.
There can be no doubt in anyone who reads today's report that every international legal norm has been violated by the actions of the Israeli authorities towards Palestinian children, and they need to be held accountable.
Israel's mission in Geneva rejected the findings and accused the Commission of defamation, saying the report did not take into account Hamas's actions. Andy Zeldin, TVB News.
Outgoing UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer's Chief Secretary Darren Jones rules himself out of the race for Labour leadership and has thrown support for the newly elected MP for Makerfield, Andy Burnham, the only candidate to put his name forward. Jones, who was mooted as a possible contender, says he has been reassured about frontrunner Burnham's economic plans and that he believes the former Greater Manchester mayor would be the next Prime Minister. He suggests Burnham has not outlined specific spending plans in their talks, adding there's room to borrow a little bit more. Jones' endorsement means Burnham could likely succeed Starmer in the middle of July rather than September after a leadership contest. If appointed, this 56-year-old lawmaker will be Britain's 7th leader in 10 years. Burnham's chances got a big boost on Monday when former Health Secretary Wes Streeting announced his support. Burnham was reportedly meeting Labour Party colleagues Tuesday in preparation for a leadership contest. The University of Hong Kong's medical faculty introduces a robotic system to assist in microsurgeries, including living donor liver transplants. Andy Zeldin has more.
The University of Hong Kong's medical faculty has been using an ultra-precision robotic-assisted microsurgical system since last year. The system features tremor filtration and motion scaling with freely rotatable robotic arms that facilitate surgery in confined spaces.
Every human has tremor, hand tremor. So we're using this robotic system, we're trying to minimize, we basically eliminate the human factor and basically eliminating or reducing the human factor to cause error in constructing the vascular anastomosis.
The team has trained 4 surgeons and completed 48 procedures at Queen Mary Hospital using the new technology, including cervical microvascular anastomosis for head and neck cancer treatment, and in April this year, the world's first robotic-assisted microvascular anastomosis in a living donor liver transplant. All patients recovered without complications.
So in the long term, we actually hope not just to improve the outcome for our patients, but also to shorten the waiting time so that more patients can actually benefit from these cutting-edge surgical technique.
The University of Hong Kong team states the robotic system is still in the clinical research phase. More data will be collected in the future, with the long-term goal of its application in public hospitals. And this is Zeldin, TVB News.
Police arrest 29 people on allegations of illegal lending and fraud. Several of those taken into custody include teenagers, with the youngest being 14 years old, who allegedly collected debts illegally. The police operation revealed that the syndicate had set up 3 hidden locations in Chun Wan. One of them was an illegal loan sharking call center, where members would randomly ring victims, induce them to borrow money, and then use their personal information to commit phone fraud against their families. The criminal syndicate also collaborated with a family-run money laundering group that used residential units and adjacent industrial buildings to process criminal proceeds and control dummy accounts. They recruited teenagers for illegal debt collection activities such as splashing red paint. Many alleged key syndicate members have triad backgrounds. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.